if you're teaching the typical Sunday school view of this snake in a garden, this little 4-foot snake with some little fangs and stuff like that, I think you're going to limit you're going to take it slightly out of context, and you're also going to limit your students' view and the magnitude of what the Bible is actually trying to say in its original context about what was going on and what this creature was and why Eve should have avoided it. All right. So this is going to be one of those things where you're going to help your students' view of the Bible is going to go from like an 80s 480 by 579 resolution into 4K. And you're going to help that biblical view and that understanding of what really is going on, and it's going to expand their minds so that they understand even more in depth as our figure kind of reveals itself throughout Scripture. So one of the first objections you're going to hear from that I'm probably going to catch in the comments is that John literally calls Satan a snake in Revelations 2:9, but which is fine. We'll get there. But in the context of the original author or the original writings that we have of Genesis, it didn't use the word ophis or literal snake. It used the word nakash. And before we get too far into that, I will tell you that I'll put all the links, the Strong's concordances and whatnot, for all you word nerds and whatnot that want to get into all this. I'll put all that down in the link because today it's just going to be that's going to be too much to just cycle through. So I'll put all those links down there for you. Go look at them. It should be in the pin comment down there. So before we get into Revelations 2:9, we're going to be looking at what the Old Testament used for Satan, what we now know as a single individual. The original Hebrew kind of sort of didn't, they had a broader view. So it wasn't um, Satan as in someone's actual name, it was more of a title. So if you want to look at the old Hebrew, basically means it was never just Satan, it was Hasatan, which again, you word nerd that can go through all that. So in the Hebrew, that was the adversary, is basically what it boils down to. So whenever they talked about this entity, whatever it was, they would talk about the adversary. So anybody that was against God was basically the adversary. Now they were a little bit more specific in this is going to be generally a spiritual being for the most part, since we're reading it through the Bible. But basically, the adversary came after us. The adversary prevented me from doing this. That's essentially what they're talking about. Now, they're putting it more into the context of that spiritual realm and these evil entities that are coming after them. But they tended not to identify just like one single individual like we do today, even though we also know that there are more individuals out there that come after us. So, anyway, so let's look at Revelation is basically pointing back into the original instigator of the cosmic rebellion that we're dealing with today. So it actually is talking about the beast of the field. So in Revelations, John talks about that dragon, that serpent, the devil, that Satan. Let's have a look at the layered word for what the Bible actually describes, what the Hebrew author actually wrote down. And it doesn't say serpent, it actually says the word Nacash. So Nacash is basically, make sure we get it right here. It's a root word, and it means to hiss, whisper, a magic spell, divine, or act as an enchanter. It also includes learning by experience, and diligently to diligently observe. So what is that? Let's unpack that a little bit. So this is an individual being described. The beast of the field is described as clever and crafty Nacash. This Nacash was a crafty individual, right? So this Nakash is something that is the idea is it's a beast of the field, but it's something you should really be wary of when you're dealing with it. Think of like a con man or somebody that's so super nice to you, but you've just got that uneasy feeling that they're after something. I can't figure it out. I don't know what it is, and it may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but eventually you know that they're after something. And that's the type of individual that we're looking at. Think of like a super good con man. Think of like a con man in a lot of these movies. It's a long play, but you know something is going to go wrong. They may be helpful, they may even help you win, but eventually something's going to go wrong, right? So I would say we can probably easily conclude that this beast of the field was something to be avoided. And why Eve entertained it is probably because she probably experienced it in some form or fashion. She knew that it was there. So why wasn't she afraid of it? Good question. We can be near wild animals that could tear us apart, but if we do things in certain ways, we keep our distance, we know that this wild animal is not going to hurt us if we're taking certain precautions. I'm going to guess something of that nature was going on with Eve as well. Is don't get too close. What does God do with all the animals? All of the beasts. He brings all the beasts to Adam. Adam looks for a sufficient helper, and he doesn't find any. And what happens? God creates Eve to be that official helper. So let's back that up for a second. So now that we know that this Nakash that ultimately deceives Eve is one of the wisest, or I say wisest, the word that it uses is Arum, Arum, which basically means wise in a not so good way, right? It's one of those people that can find the fault in something and expose that fault. So think of being that being crafty, the Aram wise. It's going to be more like someone who can, like, studying your enemy so close that you know how to you found its flaws, and you engage in those flaws and you take your enemy out. That's kind of what's going on here with the word Aram. This wise and crafty, in a not good way, creature, Nakash, is listed as the smartest of the beasts of the field. And who just got scorned as a potential helper for Adam? All of the animals. All the animals include this Nakash. This Nakash is likely, think of it this way, this Nakash basically just lost out on a job altogether, and then God comes in and creates a new person to replace this helper position that God and Adam were looking for. Think about it on the job. You're the best at the job at doing whatever you're doing, and they're going to start a whole new department, and they need a leader for that. And you're the best at it. You've got it. You understand it all. You're like, nobody could beat you. And your boss comes in and gives everybody an interview and doesn't choose any of you, especially you. And then they bring in someone from outside the company who may or may not have any experience in that. What are you going to feel? You're going to feel slighted, right? So I'm thinking it's the same thing here. It just got rejected for the number 2 position. So I'm thinking that this rejection, this Adam's rejection, the creation of Eve, is the ultimate insult to this beast of the field. So what's it going to do? So essentially, right? So you didn't pick me. So basically, this Nakash, this beast of the field, is basically, he's going to burn it all. Let's look at what this curse could mean. Their scholars are differing on this, but it's going from a beast of the field that basically eats meat, eats trees, leaves, whatever it ate, or even did or did not eat, depending on which way you want to look at what this Nakash was outside the garden. What it's basically, this curse is basically looking at is you're going to be brought down low. We've got some examples of that, of other kings and leaders who were brought low and would eat dirt. So we've got this thing in, look at the ancient Near East. Look this up, Amarna letters, Amarna. So this is a letter from some conquered kings writing back to Pharaoh, and they saying to Pharaoh, we eat dust. We eat the dust at your feet. We are brought low. We give up. You're the king, you're it. So there is precedent in other historical ancient Near East writings of this concept of eating dust. Now, were these kings actually eating dust? No, but basically it is, and you're face down in the ground, and you don't it, not in a good spot, right? So this is also, we'll say it's an ancient idiom for total humiliating defeat. This curse is basically saying You were great. You were crafty. You were the smartest, but now you're going to be brought down low. You are not going to be in a high vaulty position anymore. You're going to be brought down low. Your position is being stripped from you, whatever that position was. Headline theology hurts Christianity more than it helps sometimes. So a simplified version of this Genesis story would be that it's a snake and it got cursed to be a snake, and that's all there is to it. So there is some supernatural aspect to this that I think we need to maintain and we should not shy away from. So headline theology is clips on a statement that has broader meaning than what the little clip is, right? So think proof texting. um, Let me give you an illustration of the Feynman tree. Um, Richard Feynman was a physicist who tried to describe our physical world in great ways. So his tree analogy goes something like this: where does a tree get its nutrients from? Your first thought is going to be the dirt and the soil, right? The soil and the water and the minerals and all that fun stuff. Well, if you look closer, that's not entirely true. That may be where it got its start, is in the soil, but as it grows up and gets bigger and bigger and bigger, where does it, you don't see dirt getting lost anywhere in there. So there was this ancient, there's this old story of this 1800s, I forget the name, 1800s, where this scientist did this experiment where he put a certain amount of soil into a giant bucket and grew a tree out of it, and then weighed it, and how much water to put in there, um, how much soil it put in, how much it weighed, and all that fun stuff. So anyway, so a couple years later, this tree is bigger, and he takes it out of the pot, and there's the same amount of soil, or negligible amount of soil still in there. So say it was 5 pounds when he put it in there, it was 4.75 pounds when he pulls it out. So that would at least tell us that the way that the tree grew and its nutrients didn't necessarily come from the dirt, it came from somewhere else. Come back to modern times, where do we know that trees get the most of their nutrients from? Photosynthesis, from oxygen from the air. So the light activates the photosynthesis. The tree, through the leaves, takes in the oxygen and converts it. What a tree grows from isn't water and soil, it's from air and sunlight. And it takes that invisible stuff and converts it into physical tree stuff. That's the official term, it's tree stuff. So what that tells us is, if we just go by our basic understanding of how a tree grows, we can see that it's not quite right. We can, once we dig a little bit deeper, as Feynman has a tendency to say, is there more? Sure, the tree started in the ground and grew up, but something is not right. So is there more to it? So that's where people start digging, and that's what we're looking at today. Is there's more to it than just that headline theology of a snake in a garden way back when. And the text gives us clues as to who that was. So there is more. In context, the beast of the field doesn't get the job, goes to the person who got the job, tricks them, and then they get expelled from that, and then they basically, all three of them get fired. Right? So now, and then the rest of history goes into broader context, and then in the New Testament, it narrows it down into one instigator. Same story, but you have a clearer picture. You can see more of what's going on in the background. You can see better. You can see the characters clearer. You can see and understand what's going on. You have better vision of what's going on, both in the background and in the foreground, when you start seeing this in 4K. All right. So that's all I've got for you today. That's our Sunday topic, teaching topic that you can take and go back to your class, study, read up on it, go look at all the notes, and then come back on Thursday for teaching tips on how you can teach better in class on Thursday. So hope you do all that fun, like, subscribe, forward, share, all that fun stuff that YouTube requires. And other than that, have a blessed week.